So here we are again with another episode in the adventures of Nik, all the way back to the bucket list. For some reason, and I'm curious as to whether you remember why you wrote down on the bucket list, not just to visit the Titanic, but to have lunch on the Titanic when you were 8 years old.
I think, well, first of all, I always thought the Titanic was actually in one piece. Mm-hmm. And I already thought that people can actually go down and visit the Titanic. Mm-hmm. So I sort of figured, well, that's been done so many times.
Right.
Mind you, it hadn't.
Right.
And I figured, well, the next best step is have lunch on it.
Right.
And it wasn't until like the late 80s that the Titanic was actually discovered.
Right.
This is
so this is in your mind as a child. You thought, oh, so many people have already gone down to see it.
I just automatically assumed, I guess.
Right. Sure.
But I sort of think, wow, hey, having lunch in the Titanic would be really cool.
That would be really cool, and that's how it made the bucket list. By the way, isn't that amazing? The imagination of a child didn't have the limit of, oh, nobody's even found the Titanic. It's not even in one piece anymore. Nothing like that. And Nik's mind is, hey, rather than just go visit, I want to have lunch on it.
Absolutely.
Well, it's not as though you can just go have lunch at 14,000 feet under the sea. So how did that happen?
There is a process involved. I actually heard about an expedition with the Russians, mm-hmm. The Shirshov Academy of Sciences in Kaliningrad, and they do a couple of dives every year to the Titanic. Mm-hmm. And I managed to secure a spot.
Hold on.
Okay.
This is what you do. You always say, I managed to secure a spot on the submersible that goes to the Titanic. It's not that easy, Nik. The rest of the world are trying to figure, how did that actually work?
Okay. Well, first of all, it was the capacity to pay, first up.
Right, of course. You got to have, which we're going to help our Thrillionaires do the same thing. We've got to have the money to fund Thrillionaire experiences. So that's part of our mission. Yep. Fund the Thrillionaire community, make sure that they know how to make money and all that.
Exactly.
So first you got to have the capacity to write, I'm sure, what was not an insignificant check.
Yeah. So I actually found that James Cameron was actually going to, the director. The director of the Titanic, the Terminator franchise and what have you. He was actually going out to document a ship for one of his documentaries for the Discovery Channel. Mm-hmm. And I actually managed to get on that particular expedition. And I managed to secure one of the Dive 5, which was the very last dive of the season. Mm-hmm. In fact, our dive, this is how unique it was. On one of James Cameron's earlier dives, he had lost 2 ROVs. ROVs are like remote operating vehicles, which are basically attached to a tether. They've got cameras on board. Mm-hmm. He managed to lose 2 of them on one of his prior dives. Mm-hmm. One in the Marconi room and one in the Turkish baths. So our dive was actually used to recover his ROVs. And these are worth like $300,000-400,000 grand each. Mm-hmm. So we managed to salvage one of them for him.
Nice.
But on top of that too, we managed to spend a lot of time around the wreck and what have you. And obviously the Titanic is actually in 2 pieces. The bow's very much intact, but the stern looks like it's gone for a food processor,
It's just completely torn up, right? Mostly by barnacles, right? Is that what
they're called rusticles.
Rusticles.
And this bacteria has no competitor down there, which is basically, so 2,000 pounds of steel is being consumed on a daily basis.
Every day, 2,000 pounds. So how long is it going to be before there is no Titanic to visit?
Within the next 15 years, it'll be gone.
Wow.
It'll be gone. So, and
so then on top of the rest.
And the incentive for me to just do it. And if I was going to go down, go down with James Cameron.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy who everyone's seen a Titanic movie. I mean, one of the all-time grossing movies of all time. So very, very unique.
Now let's talk about the actual experience, because you're one of the few people in history who will ever have gone down to see the Titanic. Yeah. Tell us about the actual experience.
Okay, well, first of all, you're in tight quarters. You're in a pressurized biosphere, pretty much being like in a pressurized airplane. Mm-hmm. So, and it's
like a cockpit almost.
Absolutely, definitely. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, you could be incredibly claustrophobic. I mean, in very, very close quarters with no bathroom in sight. And you're going to spend about 17, 18 hours on the bottom of the ocean. Okay, so first of all, there are special dietary requirements. There are certain foods that you eat prior to actually going down, because, I mean, you just can't, if you need to visit the bathroom, you can't do it.
There is no bathroom.
There is no bathroom.
So that's not good.
Exactly. Okay. But look. So
you start sinking down beneath the surface.
We do. We open up. Basically, we're attached to a huge chain which lowers us into the onto the
like on a crane or something.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then they undo the chain, and then we just open up the ballast tanks. And what we do is we just sink to the bottom of the ocean. There's no chain, there's no tether attached to us. We just open up the ballast tanks and we just take on seawater, because seawater is a lot more heavier than the actual 18 tons worth of submersible. And we flood the compartments and bang, we just sink all the way down to the very, very bottom.
Now, how long does it take?
Between 3.5 and 4 hours.
To get down there?
Yes.
So for 3.5 and 4 hours, all you're doing is sinking through the dark.
Absolutely. For the first 100 minutes, we had ambient light, but it got darker and darker and darker, and I loved it. In fact, for the first 300 meters, we had a private escort. Some pilot whales escorted us down, which was the most beautiful, most majestic experience. Imagine like pilot whales, inviting you to their domain. And we got to around 300 meters. It's like they said, you guys are going way too deep. See you later. We're out of here. But it was just beautiful. Like, all the bioluminescent fish. Like every couple of minutes, I'll just light up, the outside lights, and just illuminate the surroundings of the submersible, and just the most incredible organisms.
And so you're just calmly just sinking down slowly all the way to the bottom, and then you get down there and. What was that first moment when you first saw the Titanic? We're talking the Titanic.
We're talking about the bow here, right? The big famous scene of Leo DiCaprio saying, "King of the world."
Right. That was a great scene. I was a kid. That was a great scene.
Yeah. I mean, that was the first thing that we saw. We sort of came up from the bottom over here, and we just blew the ballast tanks just to get a bit of leverage up, and then bang, we flooded. We lit up like the surroundings, and the first thing I saw was the promenade decking of the bow. And to me, that was just like,
wow, the Titanic.
The Titanic is like,
at 14,000 feet below the sea.
Most immortalized shipwreck in history, but I loved it.
Wow. And so you toured around the Titanic? And
we toured around. We basically, around the bow, around near the cargo hold and what have you. Went to the aft deck or the bridge and what have you. And checked out the telemotor. And then from there, we made our way to the stern. Now, I've got a very unique story, which I haven't discussed this in the book. But I was telling our Russian pilot, Victor, Victor, I want to get up nice and close to the propellers, these huge bronze propellers in the back of the stern. And when I say I want to get close, I want to get close.
Right.
And literally, I was about a meter away from these huge, huge bronze propellers. And we got way too close. And Victor had to back off a little bit. And as he backed up a little bit, we actually... Okay. Have you ever had this happen to you before? Like, you go to a supermarket, okay? And you're reversing and you accidentally back into a shopping trolley? Well, we accidentally backed into the Titanic.
Okay. So let me get this straight. You backed into the Titanic.
By accident.
Right. Okay.
We backed into it. Because the stern is just like, it's just mangled. It's just, you can't actually define any component of it. But except for these beautiful, huge bronze propellers.
Wow.
But we backed into the Titanic.
And then tell us about the dream. You wanted to have lunch on the Titanic.
Yeah.
So you spoke to Victor, the pilot, and...
I said, Victor, so imagine this, right? Our reactor's been rusting for about 95, 96 years, and we parked 18 tons of submersible on the bridge. And we stopped for some lunch, a bit of tuna sandwich, a bounty, and what a feeling. Right in the bridge where Captain Smith once stood.
Right, exactly. Amazing. Yeah. Unbelievable. Amazing. Going down to the Titanic, and now, as we shared earlier, the challenge is that the rusticles are eating it away. Yeah, it'll be gone.
So within 15 years, the Titanic will no longer be there. But how is this? I'm actually working on a dive. It's been done a couple of times. Jacques Cousteau actually discovered the sister ship, the Britannic. And this is actually, the Britannic is actually larger in size than the Titanic. And she went down in the First World War. She was actually torpedoed by a German U-2 boat in the Greek islands. And I'm looking at mounting an expedition. And this is an open invite to our Thrillionaire community to be a part of this expedition too. So it's going to be very, very unique. And this is the sister ship of the Britannic. just as luxurious and larger in size. And the cool thing is, she's one piece.
Okay, so here's the challenge. We want to hear from you. Who wants to go on our Thrillionaire experience to dive the Britannic, sister ship to the Titanic, that is still intact somewhere in the Mediterranean, right? It's in the Mediterranean?
Greek Islands,
which is a deep sea, so that should be pretty interesting to get to that very deep sea. So, talk to us, Thrillionaires of the world. We want to know who wants to go see the Britannic, and what do you think we could do to make that happen? See you next time.